We're going to look at 70 years of China's foreign assistance history. What makes China's approach different? Stay with us. 2020 marked the 70th anniversary of China's foreign assistance. According to China's foreign aid agency, China has since provided aid to over 160 countries and international organizations without any political conditions. Once a major recipient of foreign aid, China has become a critical provider of investment and development resources. What distinguishes China's model of foreign aid from traditional Western methods? What special opportunities does it bring, and what are the challenges? Joining me today via Skype is Dr. Cheng, Chief Economist of the Made in Africa Initiative, a foundation to support manufacturing in Africa. And from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, is Ryder, CEO of the consulting company Development Reimagined. Welcome to both of you. Now, Jason, let me go to you first. You mentioned in an article a cooperation mode as request-based model, which in simplified terms means that China helps African countries based on what they need most, after which China will evaluate the request in terms of feasibility, budgets and mutual interest before they reach an agreement. So what are the advantages and possibly disadvantages of this mode?
Well, foreign aid is a new thing. Foreign aid has been evolved along with human society. And after World War II, Western donors had a lot of development resources into Africa. The problem with their model is they never ask what African countries truly need. What makes China standing out is China adopt a request-based model with Africa during since day one. Like, we were truly listening to African countries, what they truly need. And then we, based on our own capability and our own advantages, to decide which programs, which sectors, which programs we would assist with. And the best advantage for this is that China's assistance would generate much, much bigger social and economic impact, development speaking, and comparing to Western aid. If you want me to point out the disadvantage, is that China might not have that much control over African countries, just like Western powers over African countries.
Wenjie, I want to get your take on your understanding of the Chinese approach vis-a-vis the traditional approach by more developed Western countries and the pros and cons that Jason just mentioned.
Yes, well, I've been working in the international development sector for close to 20 years. And so one of the key aspects of development is this kind of coordination to try to improve the effectiveness of development assistance. And that's not just an effort from China itself, but also an international effort. And obviously, even Western countries, whether it's UK or Germany, all over the world, are also interested in trying to do that. That said, the Chinese model has certainly some key benefits. What Jason mentioned in terms of what Dr. Cheng mentioned in terms of the ownership, the demands from developing countries, that is certainly a very, very important benefit of Chinese foreign assistance. At the same time, it's also very government-led, which is something that many other countries don't necessarily do. Other countries also tend to support more non-governmental organizations or even the private sector to do more. So there are pros and cons of different models, but there are some key principles of how development assistance is done best. And one of those key principles is ownership of the recipient governments, and that is recipient countries, and that is very, very important that China continues to uphold that.
Jason, let me ask you a little bit about the history behind such an approach. Exactly how come such an approach came into being? Did it have to do with the fact that China itself was a major recipient of foreign aid for a long time, and also, and still up to today, China still is in a very much similar situation as other developing countries?
Exactly. China has been one of the biggest recipients of foreign aid in the world, all the way from the 70s until 2008, I believe. And but China has been providing assistance to other countries at the same time. So China was one of the very few examples in the development area that we possess both the role of a recipient and donor at the same time. What benefit brings China is China can truly understand the feelings for recipient countries, so that will be improved our practical work as a donor country.
Do you have an outstanding example you can cite at this moment that comes to your mind, for instance, that clearly illustrate what you just were talking about? Jason.
Yeah, exactly. For a very clear example is the focus of Chinese foreign aid on infrastructures. In the past, in the 50s and 60s, Western foreign aid, especially multinational aid from the World Bank and IMF, will also focus very much on infrastructure and industrial development. Mm-hmm. But then, for different reasons, Western aid shifting away from economic aid into more societal and developmental aid. But China, as our own experience told us, infrastructure is very much the first stone of the puzzle for development. So that China has been always focused on infrastructure development in African countries. I believe that's a perfect example for China as a donor and recipient at the same time. We understand the recipient side much better than a pure Western donor would be.
Mm. Hannah, tell us a little bit about the makeup of the different approaches in Africa in terms of foreign assistance. I mean, we have the Chinese approaches, of course, and then we also have the traditional, the Western approaches, the Western projects. How prevalent are the two approaches, and how are they working together? Are they existing together in order to, bring certain level of industrialization and development to the African continent?
Mm. Well, I think, obviously there are different, as you mentioned, there are different types of foreign aid. Even China itself has got different types of foreign aid, including infrastructure, like what Jason was talking about. But, I was looking through this online exhibition about the Chinese foreign aid over the last 70 years. And mm-hmm. there are examples also of agricultural cooperation in rural areas, schools being built, hospitals being built. These are also the sorts of kinds of cooperation that a lot of other countries, OECD countries, do, for example, in particular through their contributions to the World Bank or other multilateral development banks. These are other types of foreign aid, and there's also technical assistance, which is experts going and supporting governments or other organizations or even people in farms to improve what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I participated, for instance, back in 2015 in the evaluation of a trilateral cooperation between China, the UNDP that I was working at the time, in Cambodia. And we had technical experts there helping farmers learn how to farm cassava rather than rice, and therefore increase their incomes through that method. But I guess one of the key points here is, while all of these different types of foreign aid are in many ways complementary, there is a key issue in terms of sustainability. How can the types of foreign aid actually be sustained? And it comes back to that point that we made at the beginning around the ownership. If recipient countries really own these projects, if they have really demanded them, then they will take them forward, and they will also make sure that they're a success. And that really is key to the success of every foreign aid project out there.
Yeah. So Jason, elaborate for us, how does the Chinese approach keep the project, keep their efforts sustainable? I mean, we understand that in the early 1990s, China explicitly stated that it will start to use its foreign aid to pursue common development rather than offering one-way benefits. Is that what gives, impetus to the kind of sustainability? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. China is not a rich country. China has never been a rich country for a long time. We are not a rich Western donor, so it's very hard to tell Chinese and China it is our obligation to provide only one-way assistance to countries that perhaps not that poor as China was. So China chose another model. That is, we choose to partner with African countries, with other developing countries, to climb up the development ladder. That is exactly the meaning for mutual development or mutual beneficiary. And in the 1990s, Western donors also faced aid fatigue. Their aid volume dropped like by half within a couple of years because their model does not sustainable anymore. And by mutual beneficiary, by working together, by cooperating on different development projects, China's way to do foreign aid apparently provide another alternative for sustainable development.
Looking ahead, Hannah, looking ahead when we're looking at the impact of the pandemic, we're looking at African countries starting their free trade area, and China continue to provide assistance, continue to do trade with African countries. What kind of changes do you think China's foreign assistance in Africa will be? Will there be any changes?
Well, I certainly hope that it will continue and also expand. There's still, so many people, 400 million people prior to COVID-19 were estimated to still be in poverty in African countries and others obviously outside of Africa. And beyond that, obviously, COVID-19 has had some very significant structural effects and economic effects, which may lead to more poverty. The World Bank estimates that there will be more poverty, but there's still a lot of work to be done to really understand exactly how that will happen. Nevertheless, it's very important that China does continue to collaborate. It's very important that others continue to collaborate with African nations on delivering development, on sustainable development. I think the biggest challenge is going to be the fact that China has obviously, and I think the point that Jason made of China's own experience being very informing the way that China does foreign assistance is very useful and really important to remember. Now, what China managed to do in terms of over the last 70 years is have help many millions of people lift themselves out of poverty. Well, African economies, if they're going to meet the Sustainable Development Goals, my firm calculates that they will need to lift themselves out of poverty twice the rate that China did, if that's going to happen. Now, that requires a great deal of investment, a great deal of engagement and support from other partners. And so I hope that China will be part of that journey.
Yeah. Jason, 20 seconds if you can. What does it look like for foreign assistance for China in 2021 and beyond?
A lot of challenge. The pandemic proposed a big question for all humankind, especially for African. How could African vaccinate this huge population? Considering there is no way we can manufacture those vaccines in Africa, and China could be a partner, but China cannot do it alone by ourselves. We need the whole world. We need every country to join this effort.
Okay. We have to leave it there. Many thanks to my guests, Jason Cheng and Hannah Ryder. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. Go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.